So I'm going to skip ahead here and get to the final chapter and the scene where the creature, where Victor is dying and the creature enters the boat, Walton's boat. And good gosh, those cats are feeling their Cheerios today. And this is in chapter 24. The creature says to Frankenstein, excuse me. Well, first, Walton is talking, and Walton says that the creature has been crying, and he says when he heard him approach, Walton approach, he ceased to utter exclamations of grief and horror and sprung towards the window. And then the creature says that Victor is one of his victims, and he says, "O Frankenstein, generous and self-devoted being, what does it avail that I now ask thee to pardon me? I, who irretrievably destroyed thee by destroying all thou lovest. Alas, he is cold, he cannot answer me." And of course, by this time, Victor is dead. So we see after Victor dies, we see his creature does have a conscience, and he does have empathy, and he does have sympathy. And he explains to Walton at this point, he says, "And do you dream," said the demon, "do you think that I was then dead to agony and remorse? Think you that the groans of Clerval were music to my ears? My heart was fashioned to be susceptible of love and sympathy. And when wrenched by misery to vice and hatred, it did not endure the violence of the change without torture that such as you cannot even imagine." And so the creature is saying, I did not take joy and I did not take delight in murdering those people. And he's still claiming that he was driven to his actions by the actions of others. And we still have to ask ourselves, is that a valid excuse for evil? He talks about evil being his good and so on and so on. And he wants, he still says, and this is still in the same chapter, "When I run over the frightful catalogue of my sins, I cannot believe that I am the same creature whose thoughts were once filled with sublime and transcendent visions of the beauty and the majesty of goodness. But even so, the fallen angel becomes a malignant devil. Yet even the enemy of God and man had friends and associates in his desolation, and I am alone." Even Satan had his companions. He has none. He goes on to say, "I, the miserable and the abandoned, am an abortion, to be spurned at and kicked and trampled on. I have devoted to my Creator the select specimen of all that is worthy in love and admiration among men, to misery." And then he says that he is going to collect his funeral pyre and he is going to burn himself. And then he jumps out the window and we never hear from him again. We don't know if he burns himself or not. And so we finally see at the end that the monster is remorseful. And he is lauding Victor as this great and selfless man. I don't agree. I think that Victor was very hubristic. I think that Victor sought to be, as he said, the creator of a race that would look to him with gratefulness and even though he might not outright state it, as a god. So I'm going to end this here, and I'm not going to say anything else, but I do want you to think about the creature. Does the creature remain a monster? Is he absolved of anything he says by his admonitions of guilt and sorrow? What about Victor? Does what the creature say about Victor, have any bearing on your opinions of the man? And why would the creature do that at the very end, after Victor was so careless of him to begin with and refused to help him in his greatest wish and desire, which was to have a companion? Thus ends Frankenstein, the novel. But of course, you still have work to do in the class about this novel.